You could put on a podcast or watch YouTube videos in Italian and follow along just fine. You read books written for native speakers and hardly break a sweat. By every measure, you understand the language. So why is it that the second you try to actually speak, to say something yourself, your mind goes blank? Or what does come out is slow, clunky, broken, nothing like the fluency going on inside your head. And maybe the most frustrating version of this, you're asked a question in Italian and totally freeze, and then someone else answers that same question and you realize you knew every single word in their response. It just didn't come to you when the pressure was on. You had all the pieces, you just couldn't assemble them in the heat of the moment. If that's you, know this. It's not a sign that learning to speak Italian is a lost cause for you. This is actually one of the most common, most predictable walls in the entire language learning journey. Everyone goes through it, and it feels like a dead end, but it's not. It's actually a sign that you're approaching a breakthrough. There's a specific, almost mechanical reason this happens, why understanding races so far ahead of your ability to actually speak. And once you see it, this whole frustrating gap is going to make complete sense. So let me show you exactly what's going on. So what's actually going on here? There are really two things that could be holding you back. And for most people, it's some mix of both. Let's start with the first one. Before you can produce a language, you need to have it really internalized. And not just any version of it, you need to have heard it the way people actually use it in real everyday conversation. Hours and hours of it. Here's a way to look at it. Imagine I handed you the lyrics to a song that you'd never heard before. Just the words printed on a page. If you read and reread those words enough times, you might start to feel like you know the song. But it's not until you actually listen to it, hearing how it's really sung, that you'd have any hope of singing it yourself. Because until you've heard it, you have no idea how the melody goes, where the words speed up or stretch out, which syllables land hard and which ones float by. You've got the words, but you don't have the music, and the lyrics alone were never going to be enough. That's almost exactly what's happening with you in Italian. Understanding the language is like having the lyrics. You know what the words mean and you can follow along, but speaking it is like singing the song. It's a different thing entirely. And here's the part that trips people up. Not all input gets you there. If everything you've listened to is a polished monologue, podcasts you absorb passively, news, audiobooks, you've been reading the lyrics, which is a great start, but what you might be missing is hearing the actual song. Real people in real conversations responding to each other the way they do naturally. That's the input that puts responses on the tip of your tongue when you actually need them. So if that's been your gap, the fix is to refocus what kind of input you're getting toward the real conversational stuff. But that's only reason number one, because even with all the right input, there's a second thing that has to happen before speaking clicks. And we'll get to that next. And really quick, if this or any of my other videos have helped these things click a little easier for you, hit that subscribe button and stick around. There's a lot more coming. Okay, on to the second reason so many people struggle to make that jump to actually speaking Italian. So let's say you've got the input side handled. You've heard tons of real conversational Italian. The responses are in there. So why does it still feel so uncomfortable getting them out? This is the second reason, and it's one a lot of teachers gloss over. Speaking is its own separate skill. And like any skill, the only way to get good at it is actually doing it. Now, this one's a bit more controversial, I'll admit. There's research out there suggesting that the speaking block is purely an input problem, that you need to just keep consuming the language and the blockage will eventually take care of itself. But that has not been my experience learning languages in the real world. For me, the thing that's made me dramatically more comfortable and confident speaking has been actually practicing producing the language myself. Think about it like a sport, basketball, say. You could spend months watching it, every game, every highlight, studying how the pros move, and you learn a ton, like you know the game inside and out, but the first time you actually step on the court, you're still going to be a mess, out of breath, fumbling the ball, just a step behind everybody else. And here's why. Because understanding something and actually being able to do it are completely different things that you're asking of your brain and your body. When you're just observing, you can sit back and react. The game unfolds in front of you, and all you have to do is follow it, recognize what's happening, understand it. That's the easy part. But when you're playing, nobody's handing you the action. You have to generate it. Read the situation, decide what to do, and physically pull it off. All in real time with the clock running and defenders in your face. Speaking a language is exactly the same. When you listen, the words come to you. Your brain just has to recognize them and match them to meaning, which after enough input, it does easily. That's watching the game. But speaking flips it around. Now nobody's feeding you the words. You have to generate them yourself. Find them, put them in the right order, and get them out at conversational speed. That's stepping onto the court, and no matter how many games you've watched, the first time you play, it's going to feel clumsy because you've never actually done it before. So if you feel like you've had a good level in Italian, but just can't get the words out when it matters, and you're tired of the classic just consume more input, this is the thing worth trying. You have to practice the actual skill of speaking. There's just no way around it. So those are the two reasons. One, you might not have had enough of the right kind of input. And two, you might not have had enough practice with the actual skill of speaking. Most people who are feeling stuck are dealing with some mix of the two. And the good news is neither is hard to fix. The hard part is just knowing what was going wrong, and now you do. So let's make this practical. If you feel like you have an overall high level in Italian, but it's just not translating to your ability to speak, here's a couple of things worth trying. If the problem is your input, the first reason, the fix is to shift what you're listening to. And specifically, you want input where you can hear people actually interacting, responding to each other in real time. So my top recommendation here is TV shows and movies, because you're not just hearing the language, you're seeing the everyday situations that go with it. It shows your brain when to use specific language. Someone asks a question, and you watch how a real response happens in context. The next best thing is a podcast with multiple hosts, where people are talking with each other, bouncing off of one another, having genuine back and forth. That's the key difference. A solo podcast or a single YouTuber talking to a camera can be great input, but it's one person monologuing. You never hear a real exchange, and the exchange is what you've actually been missing. Now, if the problem is the second reason, you're already watching the movies and TV shows, but you've never actually practiced producing the language, then you probably need more practice expressing yourself directly in Italian. That being said, you don't have to throw yourself into a high pressure conversation on day one. There are plenty of more manageable ways to get started. Journaling is a great low stakes start. You're still producing the language, pulling the words out and putting them in order, but slowly without the pressure of someone waiting on a response. Another one I really like as a launching pad for speaking is talking to AI. You can have an actual back and forth, either out loud or typed, with zero pressure and zero judgment, taking all the time that you need. I'm going to go a lot deeper on the output side, both writing and speaking, in their own dedicated video series, so keep an eye out for that. So if you're stuck right now, understanding everything, but able to say almost none of it, I hope this took some of the mystery out of why. It's not a wall that you're going to be stuck behind forever, and it's not a sign that this will never happen. It's just the natural gap between taking a language in and putting it back out. And now you know exactly how to start closing it. If this helped, subscribe and stick around. There's a lot more where this came from. Step by step, at your own pace, no textbooks, no stress.